I am Shirley, and I am so honored to bring to you today Team Elevators. The team members are Amy, Lauren, Rati, and Zan. You will get to meet them in just a minute because I'm going to go over just a couple of housekeeping things while the rest of y'all are still getting into this webinar. So we highly encourage you to utilize the chat function for comments or virtual high fives, and then definitely ask questions in the Q&A function throughout the presentation. We'll get them answered or responded to before the end of the presentation for sure. And also your feedback is much appreciated. There is a survey that will pop up at the end of the presentation, and that survey is also where you will find your certificate of completion so you can self-report for CE credits. And AIA members, the survey is where we'll capture your AIA ID and report this credit for you. So without further ado, I'm gonna hand this off to Zan.
So thank you for the introduction, Shirley. I'm Alexandria Henley. My nickname is Zan, so you will hear that throughout the presentation. I'm very happy to be here alongside my wonderful colleagues. We have some great content to cover, so I hope that you're excited. A little bit of background information on me. I have been around the construction industry my entire life. My father owns a construction company and a custom cabinet shop, and many of my family members have worked in construction for several generations. So it feels almost inevitable that I wound up joining the team. I actually have a combined background in both clinical social work and international business management. So I combined these skill sets and joined ElevateHER because I'm really passionate about examining the systemic issues contributing to pay inequity and gender inequality within the workplace, and learning more about ways to better create working environments built on psychological safety. So that's me, and I'm going to have my colleague Amy introduce herself.
Thanks, Ann. Hi, I'm Amy Jones, and I'm the president and CEO of O'Connell Robertson, an integrated architecture, engineering, and interior design firm in Texas. I've spent nearly 25 years in the AE industry as a woman, a mom, and a marketer. I've seen the challenges, the barriers, and detours for other women in the industry. And while I've had many female peers in my network early in my career as a marketer, they became fewer and harder to find as my role evolved into senior leadership and a principal in the firm. I want to be a voice for both encouragement and change, so I joined ElevateHER to learn how I could make a difference in the future of our industry. Rati?
Thanks, Amy. My name is Rati Perumal, and I'm an electrical engineer and the founder and CEO of ElevateHER Engineering here in Kingston, Ontario, Canada. So I moved to Canada in 2010 to do my master's, and I worked in over 70 different manufacturing plants and 5 different jobs. Every environment I walk into, I always do a quick scan to see if there are any other female engineers on the plant floor, because I felt like it would be nice to have another girl to work with. I made a lot of friends at work, scientists, chemists, accountants, HRs, admins, but not a lot of engineers. Maybe a couple, that's it. I joined this cohort to brainstorm alongside some powerful people, open-minded individuals, and help develop systems that any firm around the world can use to elevate themselves and the community in which they live and work. We've done some incredible research over the last 8 months, and we're super excited to share it with everyone here today. We'd also like to mention Lauren Waldron, who was a part of our team in the beginning. Recently, she got an opportunity to make a difference in her community through a new job, so she's unable to join us today. We wanted to thank her for her efforts. And with that, I'll let the amazing Amy explain the why behind our group to you.
Thanks, Rati. With our group's commitment to the ideas around DEI, we wanted to learn more about it and find resources to share. The statistics on this slide alone are concerning. Just 30% of the industry workforce are women, and we know that only 16% of firm principals are female. I think we can all agree that success for firms we represent and across the board in the AEC industry requires a significant lift to improve firm cultures in areas of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're in the most competitive recruitment and retention era we've ever seen. Firms have to pay attention to DEI for hiring top talent, for sustaining growth, and fostering innovation. But where do we find the tools and the resources to feel knowledgeable and confident about DEI issues? Our project built on previous work by ElevateHER staff and 2020 cohort members, and we hope it will continue to develop well beyond our efforts. You want a diversity plan, but where can you find an example if you're a small engineering firm? You want to update your parental leave policy, but you'd sure like to know what some other architectural firms are doing. Where can you find a luncheon speaker for cultural bias information? Who can provide training on diversity and inclusion for your strategic planning session? Wouldn't it be great if you could find a list of resources that were all in one place? We thought so too. So we have created a centralized online portal of DEI resources. So anyone from employees to firm leadership can access resources that will strengthen individual skill sets, foster diverse and inclusive workplaces, or demonstrate a commitment to prioritizing DEI initiatives. And now Zan is going to tell you how we did it.
So to develop this online library of tools, we first looked at the existing website for ElevateHER and the existing website for Zweig Group. As a team, we really liked the learning tab that we saw at the top of the Zweig Group website. So we decided that we wanted to duplicate this concept for the ElevateHER site to bring more of a focus to resources and learning materials that were available. So to do this, we went about restructuring the ElevateHER website with the intention of including the existing tools that were already present on the site, and also building out an organized collection of additional tools and resources that we characterized by keywords and topics. So our strategy for doing this was to break our project into 3 areas: the website, the resources and learning materials, and our methods for how we were going to most efficiently and effectively collect the information that we needed. For the website, we collaborated with the ElevateHER team and their designers to make sure that our vision was on brand, consistent with ElevateHER messaging, and contained top quality content. For the resources, we started by identifying categories that we thought would be most relevant. So these categories were data and statistics, diversity, equity, and inclusion, DBE programs, human resources, multicultural events, workplace culture, and leadership. We then worked to identify key resource types that we wanted to include, and these were speakers and thought leaders, books, podcasts, and articles, all related to the categories that I just mentioned. Our methods for collecting the resources that we did was through our own research and vetting process. So we used LinkedIn, where we relied on our own networks to recruit thought leaders. And we also used a Google form that Rati will explain in a little bit. So here's an example of how we used LinkedIn to connect with colleagues and collect resources. So by sharing with our public networks, we were able to collect recommendations for books, speakers, podcasts, and articles for more than 20 individuals. We also used the ElevateHER Facebook group to connect with individuals from last year's cohort. And all of the posts that we made on every platform contained a link to the shared Google document for thought leaders and speakers to share resources that they recommended. And again, Rati will review that in a moment. But just, so you know, of the individuals that participated and completed the Google form, these are the people that made, the recommendations for books, podcasts, and articles. So of those people, 57% of them were principals or CEOs of their firm. Approximately 70% of the responses we got came from individuals who had expertise in workplace culture. 61% had expertise in leadership, and approximately 44% had expertise in diverse, equity, and inclusion. So now I'm going to let Rati show you what the Google form that we used looked like and how we collected all of this information.
Thanks, Anne. So as an engineer, I'm all about automating things and making it more efficient. And the best way to gather tons of data and organize, sort, categorize, and save them is through Google Forms. We are not sponsored by Google Forms. I am just really excited about Google Forms. If you are interested in helping us expand this library, click on the link that Shirley just shared in the chat box. It'll take you to a form that looks like this. You need to fill out your personal information, and you can tell us what your 3 areas of expertise are. What are you most passionate about? Is it data and statistics? Is it HR, leadership? Is it multicultural events? Or is it DBE programs? Once you fill that out, you can also share your favorite must-reads with the rest of the world. So what we do from there is gather all the information and vet it and add it to our web page, and Zan will show you how our landing page looks like in real time.
So here on the left, you'll see the landing page. Just to start, I think it's important to share that initially we set out with a goal to compile a resource list of at least 12 experts, 12 articles, and 27 book recommendations. And so we did all of this, and we even included additional resources, including podcasts. So it's our hope that these different resource lists actually will continue to grow. And if anyone has any suggestions, please send them our way. Fill out the Google form. That's what's going to make this tool as helpful as possible. So again, on the left, you can see what the landing page looks like. And looking specifically at the resources, if you go to the bottom of the landing page, you can search in the dialog box based on resource type or keyword, or you can simply click on the category for books and speakers and or speakers and thought leaders, articles, podcasts, whichever one you want. So then you'll get redirected to a list of those specific resources. So let's say we click on speakers and thought leaders. We'll be redirected to this page here, and it's going to show you a list of different speakers and thought leaders, and it's going to show you what their areas of expertise are, and a little bit more, and it will also provide a little bit more information about them as well. So now let's step into the elevator and go up a floor.
So we initiated our project with the idea that we wanted to compile a list of knowledge experts and books and other resources around the DEI topic and our industry, people who could be advisors, speakers, and much more. We would like to share some of the resources our group was impacted by during the course of this project. So let's go up a floor and check out some knowledge experts that we wanted to highlight. For me personally, I'm going to talk about Mark Peripa, who is attending this webinar. I just saw his name pop up. Mark and I crossed paths a couple years ago in one of my previous jobs. He was hired to coach the leadership team at our firm at the time, as we were trying to better the employee management communication gaps. This is quite a touchy subject, as I'm sure you all know. I was quite skeptical about this entire process, and I did some personal research on Mark online, and I was instantly moved by how open, honest, and vulnerable he was with everyone, the values with which his mom raised him, and so on. So I reached out to him on LinkedIn even before we met at work, and I told him I was looking forward to our session. During our very first meeting, I saw him live these values. He emphasized on the need for human connection, regardless of your role. And he held our hands and helped us take baby steps at improving our communication pattern. That was my experience. And he also established very clear boundaries of what can and cannot be said, which helped keep conversations civil. And he did all of this in a way that didn't raise our defenses. And that's pretty hard to do. So if you're looking to convert your managers into leaders who lead with their heart, you should reach out to him. His details, along with other amazing speakers, as you can see on the screen, can be found under the Speakers and Knowledge Experts tab on our webpage. We'll share the link to that towards the end of our session. They're also categorized by their areas of expertise. So you can enter any keyword, and all associated speaker profiles with their bios and their preferred method of contact will pop up. Amy, would you like to share your notable speaker?
Sure. Thanks, Rati. As part of the development of our list of knowledge experts, I had a chance to talk with Pete Smith, CEO of BWBR, a multifaceted design firm in the Midwest. Pete's been leading BWBR through a journey of greater gender and racial equity, starting with an equity task force and staff awareness and education. The work has led to updating their procedures and policies and has even impacted their client relations. But as CEOs, Pete and I share many concerns and opportunities for the people who work at our firms. It was great to have this resource to just talk to someone in my same role for 30 to 45 minutes one morning to learn how they got their task force off the ground. What was the timeline for this kind of work and for their initiatives to really become implemented? What was the process for engaging others? And how did they get the leadership team on board? This is just one of the types of resources that we've helped to identify. And as Rati said, we want this list to grow. So if you have expertise in these areas or know someone who does, please check out the Google link that was put in the chat so we can continue to add people to the list of resources. Now, let's keep elevating the industry, Zan. Take us up to another level and talk about some more resources.
Okay, so podcasts are a great resource for learning, particularly for individuals who have busy schedules or just prefer to listen to content as opposed to reading it. So they're a very convenient and cost-effective learning tool, and this is why we felt it very important to include in our library of resources. So admittedly, this has been one of my favorite podcasts for quite some time, the Modern Manager podcast with Mamie Canfor-Stewart. And what I love about this podcast is that the host interviews professionals in various industries and focuses on a wide array of topics, including strategies for building workplace environments that are built on psychological safety, the importance of mentorship, how to promote inclusion and belonging, strategies to optimize workplace performance, and even things like how to effectively give and receive feedback. So all episodes contain actionable advice and insights, which are all things that are relevant to elevating workplaces and in turn, elevating the industry that you're in. So one episode that I enjoyed listening to focused on DEI and how diversity, equity, and inclusion trainings are unfortunately often aimed at helping white people understand unconscious bias, microaggressions, and managing white fragility. And while these are important aspects of any company's DEI journey, it's also important to attend to the needs and experiences of people of color who have experienced the impact of these things. So this episode that I enjoyed reviews an approach to providing the space and support for people of color to do their own work, while white individuals also do the work that they need to do as well without putting the emotional burden on people of color. Then there's another episode that drills down into the importance of cultivating an environment built on psychological safety, how to do so, and also it goes into the benefits that the organization will then experience, as well as the benefits that the employees will see. So there's several episodes that I would love to highlight, but I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis about two more. So there's a third one that focuses on the root cause of employee disengagement, the power of the beginner mindset, how to gain perspective on your own behaviors that could be contributing to a poor culture, and the challenges of trying to change the leadership above you. So I could go on and on, but I will just stop there. But this is just one example of a resource that is available through our resource library. And as a manager, I have found several episodes extremely helpful for learning more about, things like strategies for effectively communicating feedback, or even internal organization strategies like, the OKR framework, which I used with my team to identify and align strategic goals cross-functionally. So there's a lot of content that you can learn from in several different areas. So I encourage you to check it out. Amy has another favorite podcast that she would like to share. So I'll turn it over to her.
Great, thanks. So one of the podcasts I really appreciated during our research, which came to me through the LinkedIn responses to our outreach to the community, was the AEC Marketeer podcast, and it was episode 44. on inclusion, diversity, and recruiting with Alicia Washington. She's a principal with HRP Associates, a national environmental consulting firm. And Alicia shares her personal experiences as a minority in the industry. She gives really compelling insight into the varied perspectives of just what diversity means or doesn't in organizations. She calls out the idea that diversity doesn't just mean, oh, we have this many women and we have this many minorities in our firm. She talks about the understanding and importance of language around DEI. So what does bias mean? What is allyship? What are microaggressions and how are they perceived? She brings a really holistic view of inclusion in a firm, especially in the AE industry. I found this really interesting. She talks about diversity in our industry through departments, all the varied departments you have in a firm, the various disciplines you might have in a firm, the regional offices, and then you have the branch offices. You have the people who are working in the field, and you have the people that are designing in the office. You even have contract employees, all within one company. And she talks about the importance of fostering open communications in that work environment, dialogue that will really support your employees, not only in the typical day-to-day project-related activity, but especially in times of stress around deadlines or personal challenges. She really emphasizes the opportunity to be sure that representatives from all these areas are seen. They're seen, they're heard, and they're engaged in leadership opportunities throughout the firm and the office, so everyone feels connected. I really appreciated her observation of layers of diversity in an organization, industry, community, and beyond. So we've been moving on up, and we're going to keep doing that as we take it from here to the next level. Our project focused on an initial type of resources, as Dan mentioned, and we started collecting ideas and information. As of today, we've compiled nearly 50 books that offer ideas, data, and steps for improving your workplace. I want to briefly talk about How to Be an Inclusive Leader by Jennifer Brown. This was on the ElevateHER recommended reading, so I read it and quickly added it to the list. It includes some data. So did you know that according to a McKinsey report, organizations that employ and support diversity in their staff achieve 28% higher revenue, and they earn 30% higher profit margins than their peers? Who doesn't want that? The book is filled with actionable ideas that are identified along what she calls an inclusive leader continuum. And this continuum reminds you that change takes time. You'll continuously be moving forward and then backward and forward again on your continuum, depending on the situations that you face. The book is really like a tool to help an active leader make positive change, not just be a bystander who's positively providing an inclusive work environment. So for me, it made me think about a couple of things in our firm, and one of the ways that we might highlight different people. For a long time, we've held what we call principal roundtables, where staff get to have lunch and meet with the principal in the firm who shares their background, their education, their career path, etc., to become more personally acquainted with them. But I was reminded that there are many leaders throughout our firm that are at all different levels and who have more varied backgrounds than just our small group of principals. So we're now planning to have senior associates, associate principals in the firm, and a broader group lead these discussions so that the staff gets to know and hears from a more diverse group of company leaders. I also pulled a quote from the book that has really stuck with me as I think about the work that we want to do in this area. The quote said that it's easy to underestimate the power of small commitments enacted by single individuals when it comes to challenging systems. So really what she's saying is every little bit helps. It takes time for big change to happen, and the work will never be done in this area. DEI is a journey, and the road curves and turns along the way, but every step gets us closer to the destination. And now, Rati, I'll pass it to you to keep lifting us up.
Thanks, Amy. Here's a resource any human being can use. We live in the 21st century in a very interconnected world. Our boundaries are thinning out, and that's fantastic. I'm reminded of a meme that a coworker shared. Our world is like a big box of assorted donuts. We come in all colors and shapes and sizes, but we're all sweet in our own way. This is all great. But what is a potential issue with all this diversity that can crop up at your firm, which we can combat very easily? As of this moment, there are 4,300 plus religions or faiths in this world. Every country has a different number of official government holidays. We have Cambodia leading us with 28. So we should all move to Cambodia. I'm just kidding. I'm a Hindu, and we have over 15 different religions in our country. Some that are government recognized and some not. Some are 5 days long and some are 10 days long. And even within our own country, some states give 3 days off and some 5. So when you have employees of different faiths from different countries at your firm, how on earth are you supposed to keep up with all this information as a leader of your firm? How do you make everyone at your firm feel like they belong, like they're included in your community? I am personally a very social person. I have no problem telling my coworkers what festival's coming up. I cook dishes that my grandma and mom used to make, and I would bring it in for everyone to share. I live 8,200 miles away from home. And yes, I had to go to Google and do a kilometer to mile conversion before the webinar started. I don't have any family here in Canada, so whomever I work with automatically become a part of my Canadian family. So I assault them with love and sugar. But not everyone is that social, and not everyone would feel comfortable sharing what festivals they celebrate and how they celebrate it. But most of us have one thing in common, a shared need for learning and growing. So we came up with this multicultural celebrations calendar that anyone can download and use as a template for your firm. You can customize it to suit depending on where your employees are from. And I'm not saying you have to go all out and throw a big party and celebrate all the festival and give days off, etc. No one has time for that. I get it. But a small acknowledgement of the festival in that person's language would go a very long way. Go to Google, spend 5 seconds, figure out how to wish them for that festival in their language, and send them a quick chat, a quick message, or just pick up the phone, give them a quick call. It takes 30 seconds. But this works, it helps, and it goes a very, very long way. It'll make them feel visible and like they matter. Like Amy said in the previous slide, don't underestimate the power of small commitments. Big changes are made with small steps. Keep in mind that most festivals in the East, though, are based on the lunar calendar. So they don't fall on the same date every year. They depend on the phase of the moon. So they might jump around a bit, but will always stay within the same month. This list encompasses all the major holidays and is categorized by month. So you can download this template and use it as a guide and make your firm more inclusive. All right, so here we are. We've made it to the top. Woohoo! The goal of our project was to elevate our industry by providing you with resources that are reliable, easy to use, and are collectively in one central location, so you don't have to go hunting for them in the World Wide Web. Because at the beginning of our project, when we were brainstorming ideas as to what we should do in this cohort over the period of 8 months, something that Amy shared was one of her concerns was, as a leader at her firm, she was looking for a role model who could understand what it felt like to be in her shoes. Someone who can brainstorm ideas with her to engage and build her community. But she didn't know where to find reliable resources. We want to continue to make this library of knowledge available globally. We need your help to continue to fill it so that we can all lift our industry together. No matter what your designation be, whether you are an individual contributor, a designer, an executive assistant, a manager, a HR, or a C-suite, it doesn't matter. We wanted to empower you to elevate your community, and it absolutely is in your hands to do that. It is our responsibility to create a conscious and inclusive world, one that we are all proud of, to leave to the next generation. The sky is the limit. Let's make it happen. Think we can have Shirley back and we're open for questions.
Hey, yes, hi, we're open for questions. I think Amy has already answered some, but I think we can tell everyone as well. Amy, I'll put you on the spot.
Okay, are you putting me on the spot for Janky's question?
And there was one you answered during.
Okay, yes. Someone asked if this information could be used in other industries as well, and absolutely. So a lot of our resources are general. They're not all completely geared toward the AE industry, but some of them are, which is really helpful. But definitely anyone can check out this site, and the books are across a myriad of topics, and share them and check them out. So that's a yes. And then Janky, thanks for your tough question. Janky said she was particularly moved by the quote about small steps. And then things fizzle out sometimes though. What are suggestions on how to start small and keep things sustaining? Well, I think that's the key, right? Start with something that you can manage and that you can handle. And then my suggestion, of course, this is just my personal, is have a team to help you keep it going. I think when you have a team, a committee, a task force, you can hold each other accountable, and there will be other people to sort of keep parts and components of it moving forward, as long as you've got, the support you need. I don't know, Rati, Zan, do you have anything to add to that?
I completely agree.
And I see another question in the chat room. Jennifer is asking, where can we find the holiday calendar?
So it is in the article section, but I will give you a direct link to it in about 30 seconds.
In about 30 seconds, start counting. All right. And then the next question we have, do we have resources that are example policies from other firms that we could use as models for our own?
So I don't think on our page we have example policies yet. What we have are people who are in positions that are willing to potentially share some of their policies with you. So when you reach out to somebody at a firm who's agreed to be a knowledge expert or a speaker, they may have those policies available. And then I think that there's another cohort group that is doing some policy work, if I'm not mistaken.
And I believe that is the policies on returnship. So I'm also going to need 30 seconds, but I'm going to look that up. But so I'll get back around to that.
Hey, Rati, what surprised you most when we were doing our research? And Zan, I'm curious what surprised you most as well. Someone's asking us.
For me, it was how belonging is squished into diversity and inclusion, and it's not the same. For example, when I'm here, I feel very Indian. And when I go back home to India, I feel like I don't fit in anymore. So that's a question of belonging, right? And that has nothing to do with diversity. It has nothing to do with inclusion. It's got everything to do with how you feel on the inside and why you feel like you don't belong. And there's so little resources online for that specifically. So that's what shocked me the most.
I think something that surprised me was the fact that there really aren't centralized locations for how to do very common things that all businesses need to do. There's no guide for how to approach certain, difficult conversations, or what exists is very surface level and sort of makes the assumption that everyone's coming from, the same place, the same perspective, and that's not true. So I think that was something that, we really tried to keep in mind when collecting resources, and hopefully as we continue collecting resources going forward, is that we want them to be geared towards like so many different people and in so many different positions, to where, maybe the new administrative assistant is really eager to, have a very specific career trajectory, and there's tools and resources to help her navigate, him or her, sorry, navigate some of those difficult conversations. I think that just seeing through our research that, Google searches would yield kind of limited results, or just, surface level information. I think that was what was surprising to me. In the era of YouTube and everything else, you just expect things to be so readily available, and sometimes they're not.
Well, and I would love to add to that, Zan, and it relates to two other comments, or one for sure in the chat questions with regard to like low hanging fruit and what's easy to do. And I think that's what we found, is that none of this work around DEI is easy. And there's not a lot of low hanging fruit other than start to get educated about it and start to share information about it, and be open to the concept and open to the issues and conversations. And how do you do that? But with everyone that we've talked to or listened to, or at least that I did through this process, you'll hear them say it takes time, and it takes a strong basis of understanding of everyone in the firm or everyone who's going to be involved. And that's just not easy, and it doesn't happen overnight. So I think some small steps are awareness, having an awareness of where is your firm at from a diversity standpoint, having an awareness that it's not just a number, and recognizing that, and then starting to think about other things that you can put into practice that begin to evolve the issue and the environment in your workplace.
I agree. Starting with a reality check it's a great point to start. It might be painful, but it's a great point to start. There was a question from Ginger Lacey, and I clicked answer live by mistake. I'm sorry. It says, how would you prefer to receive website feedback? The contact link doesn't work on the resources page. So our email addresses were on the last slide. Zan, can you bring that back up so everyone can take a note? You can contact any one of us, and we'll forward that off to someone at Zweig, and they can take care of it. Yeah, there you go.
And I can also, if y'all just write to info@zweiggroup.com, we will take those as well. Thank you for noticing things too. And am I still on? Yes. I want to loop back around to when we're talking about policy. So not specifically on EDI initiative policies from firms, for example, but on the ElevateHER website, our work-life fit cohort has pulled together like flexible work policies, leave policies, and work environment policies. So those are some references that also plays into like our efforts. So just click around for other resources. But if you do have suggestions, continue to just write us and use the contact form on the website or info@zweiggroup.com. We're always watching and responding.
And hey, Shirley, someone asked about how the content will continue to be updated and evolve after our cohort dissolves. So I was going to say a couple things. We're still working through that, I think, with the ElevateHER staff, but there's a really great commitment from everyone that we can continue to add resources. Someone also asked about reviewing them. So that's something that maybe a future cohort or the staff could think about. But I was also going to take this minute to give a shout out to my team. This project team were amazing. It was so much fun to get to work with such smart and intelligent and energetic and passionate women from around the world and get to know them and their experiences. And so while the cohort might dissolve, our group is not dissolving. We've already committed that we'll be staying in touch through our WhatsApp chat for a long time to come. And but we are committed to helping make sure that ElevateHER continues to support the database and the resources.
And that's the perfect, it's almost like we planned it, Jennifer, there to ask, like to prompt this promotion, because we will, 2022 cohort of ElevateHER will start. We're actually accepting applications already. So we count on, so the continuation of all these efforts will count on future cohorts. So sign up, Jennifer. Thank you. Counting you in. And okay. Are there any more comments or questions? Alrighty. What about from Rati? Any closing comments?
No, I did a post on LinkedIn.
Alright.
I'm actually really sad that this project is coming to an end, but I can't wait to see, a year from now how big this library is going to be. Like Amy said, we have 50 books right now. I can't wait to see what happens next September. So keep your suggestions coming and keep updating the vault. And it doesn't have to be specific to the AEC industry. Anyone can use it. Like Amy answered one of the questions. This is to elevate humanity. So let's keep building the library.
And Sam?
Yeah, I think just want to thank everybody for attending. And, it's been a fun year putting all this together. We've learned a lot. And I know that we all hope that you spend some time exploring the resources that are there and contributing resources of your own.
Alrighty. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. And feedback survey should be on your screen now. And it has, like, if you have more comments, you can put it in there as well. Alrighty, wait. Ooh, it looks like we got one more question that just came in. Let's take that too. From Jana. What is one thing you all will start at your firm based on what you learned through these resources? That's a good one, Jana.
Did you say that's a good one, Amy? You want Amy to answer that? Or did you say that's a good one, Jana?
Jana, but Amy.
Thanks, Jana. So Jana already knows at our firm we've started, we're getting a sort of like a task force started that's under the umbrella of our Best Place to Work committee and program that we have active at our firm. So we're just getting it going. And I think one of the key things is going to be some foundational information and training that's going to need to happen with a few people. I don't know how that's going to work yet. And then I talked about some small changes, small steps that we're going to make here and there that people might not even really recognize are attached to this issue, but are things that we can do to improve, not only through some of our speaker programs internally, but also maybe through our recruiting processes and hiring processes and some other things that we can do and learn from. And then definitely going to continue to reach out to these resources that we've pulled together and found. Rati, what about you?
I'm going to hunt for belonging specific resources and add to the library. I don't know if many of you know, I just started my firm this year, so it's been very hectic. So I didn't, even though belonging was what, threw me off and I was surprised by it, I didn't spend enough time looking for resources that were specific to belonging to add to the vault. So that's my personal project to support this project.
And Zan, it would be a great opportunity for you to share your big news.
Oh, well, I actually am going to start a new job at a consulting firm that focuses specifically on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So they work with other companies to, support them in those efforts. And I think that's something that I really took away from this entire experience, and collecting these resources and working alongside, Amy and Rati, but just developing a greater passion for this work. And I think that's something I'm going to take away from it. And my past jobs leading up to this, I tried to take, different resources that we came across and implement them as frequently as I could. So I'm excited to use them all now going forward. Any other questions? Sorry, I got excited. I saw a comment and I thought, okay, sorry.
All righty. We should. All right. Any other comments? We'll collect it in the survey, or just reach out to the team. Thank you for joining us again. Thank you, ladies. This was great.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. Check out the resources.
Bye.
Bye.